border security. Abbott is going to, instead of the state today apparently calling for doubling was currently spent on border security, which will include adding 500 new DPS troopers along the border, more Texas Rangers to focus on border corruption, new law enforcement assets and technology along the border, more funding for local law enforcement related to transnational criminal activity, and expanding anti-gang efforts around the state. Abbott recognized they're out of the DPS cannot recruit, train, and deploy 500 new troops overnight. It'll take time to ramp up the troop levels. What else? That's what he's talking about on border security.
Nothing about a National Guard.
That might be in there, it's just not in these bullet points that the governor's staff sent out late last night. A lot of good stuff on budget. He's also going to be calling for lawmakers to note the many contracts that they have with public entities. Going to prohibit lawmakers. He wants legislation prohibiting lawmakers from voting on legislation from which they can financially benefit. And it's going to be, and he wants there to be quarterly reporting of campaign finance information. So if you have whether you're the treasurer of a campaign or you're the treasurer of a PAC, looks like you may be going from, according to Abbott, if he gets what he wants, from a twice-a-year report to a quarterly report, which is the same as the federal reporting requirements.
As long as the financing numbers go with that quarterly too, so that you can, right now, if you give more than $50 or more during a period, you have to include the person's name and address on the report.
I think
so. If you go to quarterly, that should be able to double the annual input without putting names on, if it's for a reporting period.
That I couldn't answer. We'll see what they do.
Yeah.
Any other question? Anything that's been covered in this?
Last week, Lieutenant Governor came out and said that he was looking for supplemental budget funding for the National Guard,
right,
and the DPS on the border. We have been pushing that, bunch of us, and we think that's real important. Obviously, it's got to be really pushed this week because they're trying to wrap up the supplemental by the end of the month, I think.
I think that is probably correct. If you're interested in border security, there are two deadlines approaching. First, of course, is the supplemental coming up. Two, funding expires in March for the surge. As you might recall, then Governor Perry, and then Lieutenant Governor Dewhurst both last year wanted funding for border security operations and so-called border surge to continue through the end of the fiscal year, which is the end of August. Instead, they were only able to fund it through December because of House Speaker Joe Strauss. Strauss refused to go beyond the end of December, and so when it came up again in November, he agreed to an extension through March, but would not go further. So Perry and Dewhurst signed on with that because going through March was better than ending at the end of December. So that money is going to be running out for those border operations here fairly quickly.
So the supplemental will actually refund that again from March through the end of the fiscal year.
At the end of the fiscal year. So that's that's the other kind of deadline, kind of that falls.
The other excuse of where we can't do this real fast because we've got to train people. There's plenty of retired people out there that you can voluntarily get the recall and fill that gap. We hire consultants all the time. People that are retired only within the last 1, 2, 3 years. You get plenty of volunteers if you open up the consulting money. Probably someone will even do it for free, just to secure the border.
Yeah, couldn't speak to what the DPS rules are. You know, obviously they're not talking about, you know, what Abbott's calling for is a permanent increase.
Well, it's good to have a
for those folks.
permanent increase. You ramp down the
Right.
volunteers as you get the people trained.
Yes, that.
But in the meantime, you still have this space here, March.
Yeah, but there's no excuse for having that gap. There's plenty of people out there that can fill the gap.
Any other questions, thoughts? Any of the folks, Jeremy, David, do y'all have anything you want to, out there, Emily?
Another thing that we are pushing is the interstate compact for immigration
Right.
controls with, and this is something that the compact itself obviously won't be done before the end of the legislative session, but we need authorization to go forward with it. Senator Bob Hall has put together something, so we should be pushing that as well, because that's got a, I think, a very promising future. There is precedent, but the important thing is it's got to be done before 2016, because we don't know what's going to happen with the election in 2016. Right now, we have both houses of Congress, and that's all you need. You just need Congress. The president doesn't sign off on these compacts.
Right. Yeah, for those who might be aware, the interstate compact is allowed allowed constitutionally, and it supersedes federal laws where the compact exists. A practical example of that is the Washington, D.C. metro system, which was put in place 40-some years ago via interstate compact between Maryland, Virginia, and then the District of Columbia. They supersede labor laws and environmental laws, as well as various zoning and zoning restrictions and other things. Therefore, for their metro line. So here you're in Washington, D.C., and this interstate compact supersedes the EPA. You know, so if you can do that, you can do a whole lot of cool things with interstate compacts. A couple of years ago, there was an effort led by then State Representative Lois Colcourse, of course now in the Senate, to do an interstate compact on health care, superseding a lot of Obamacare stuff. That passed the House, passed the Senate. Now we're kind of waiting on other states to join into the compact idea on that. So it's a very powerful tool. There are hundreds of them in existence, ranging everything from your ability to take your concealed carry permit and firearm to another state is governed by a series of interstate compacts. Your driver's license, health insurance, all sorts of things are governed by interstate compacts. So I would urge you to take a look at those for border security and other issues.
Has Senator Hall's info email that he puts out discussed that subject?
I got it, and I didn't get a
I don't
chance to
remember
read it,
reading
so
it.
I don't know.
Get that yet.
Well, I've gotten a couple of them. I
Oh,
don't remember seeing
and he
it.
had one yesterday, and I didn't read it, so I don't know.
Okay.
Any other questions? Should be an interesting day today. Remember 11 o'clock in the House chamber if you want to go and watch the pomp and circumstance, or about 10 minutes after 11 on your iPad or a television if you actually want to hear the speech. The Governor Abbott's State of the State, so it should be an interesting week ahead. Thank you all for coming. Appreciate it.